Welcome to the Vol Bros presented by the Ooltewah Club. My name is Evan. This is my brother Kalen's Calamity. And we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. What a wonderful day to be a Vols fan. It's not much better than the third Sunday in October after you win it on the third Saturday in October. That's a pretty good way to start your Sunday. We've already got a ton of comments coming in. Zach said everyone said I was crazy. Everyone else picked Bama. I knew he was beating Bama. Actually, Rustin and I both picked Tennessee. Zach said, funny little story. My brother-in-law is a Bama fan. Every year we get together to watch this game and have amazing memories and food, plus bragging rights for a year. There you go. Absolutely. So I'm talking about. Kevin said, who's still suffering from smoke inhalation? Let's see. Doug said, how's it going, Vol Bros and Vol Nations? Good to have you, Doug. Elijah said, go Big Orange. My chest still hurts from the cigar smoke. Let's see. Elijah may be excited when we reveal the standings for the College Football Pick'em Challenge later on. Kevin said, player of the game, Jermon with a Dylan Sampson close second. Yep, that's pretty good right there. Eric said, what's up, Vol Bros? It's awesome to be Tennessee Vols fan. Amen. Absolutely. Let's see. Elijah agreed with Kevin. He said Jermod locked Williams down. He sure did. Greg said, told you the crowd would put them over the top. We never let up. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. David, welcome. Good to have you. He said, knew he'd win with about a minute to play. I agree, buddy. I agree. That's good. I like that one. Kevin said Boo Carter came through too. Yeah, Boo's returning punts against Alabama. That was pretty cool to see. Let's see here. Elijah said he went 8-2 this week. That's exactly right. We do want to thank our sponsor, the Ooltewah Club. We invite everybody to go check them out. Let them know that the Vol Bros sent you. You can check them out at the ooltewahclub.com. My wife and I ate there tonight. It was fantastic. We had the Angus burger. Both of us did, and it was delicious. And extremely reasonably priced compared to like Armando's. Okay, is Armando's just in China? I know it's not just in Chattanooga, but like we got people from all over watching this. Let us know in the comments if you have an Armando's near you. If you don't, be like, what in the world's an Armando's? But I mean, it's exactly almost the same price. I mean, it's incredible. So, all right. Let's see here. Mina Likey, welcome. Good to have you. She said, evening, Vol Bros in chat. How about them Vols? Absolutely. Tony said, after losing my sister on Wednesday, I really need my spirits lifted. Vols came through. I sat in the stadium and cried like a baby. Well, I totally understand that, man. We are so sorry for your loss. We're glad the Vols came through for you. Praying for comfort for your family. We're glad the Vols helped lift your spirits a little bit on Saturday. Let's see. Kevin said, did you see the halftime interview with DeBoer where he admitted the kneeling crowd was affecting his team? I actually didn't see that. Did you see it, Rustin?
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard for him not to, though. The entire first series, they were just looking at each other going, can you hear? Can you hear what's going on? They were clearly struggling with it all night.
Yep. Sam said some interesting things happened in that game. Absolutely. Austin said Boo got lucky that Arion pulled him back so he couldn't connect with the retaliation, even though he baited him to begin with. Yep. Yeah, Boo about showed how immature a true freshman can be. Yeah. We had just stopped them essentially, and we didn't want to give him a free 15 yards and a fresh set of downs. Arion did a good job there. Jared said, hope number 5 on Bama is okay after that awful injury last night. He was a great actor.
He wasn't really an actor. The coach shoved him in the back. I don't think he meant to go down the way he did. I think the coach pushed him down.
They have to make a rule change. I mean, they just have to. Speaking of rule changes, it'll be interesting to see what happens after that Texas-Georgia game. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Eric said, was glad to see Nico get that vertical passing game going with Dante Brew and Chris in the second half. Hope that gives Nico confidence the rest of the season. Totally agree, man. Billy said, I don't know why Nico doesn't hit his bomb throws. Haven't they worked with Nico to make sure he doesn't overthrow his receivers? I mean,
They can work it
Yeah.
all day long and 100 times on Sunday. It's not the same in a game. And timing and practice is easy. Anybody can be a practice All-American. Connecting on those in games is just a different animal. Now,
defensive linemen aren't allowed to hit him in practice.
well, now that being said, there were 2 that were clean that he should have completed, and he just overthrew because his footwork was bad, and he just cut it loose. And if he had put any kind of air under the ball at all, both of them would have been walk-in touchdowns.
Yep.
There was one that was going to be a tough throw. If he had connected, it would have been a great play, but he overthrew it because it was going to be a tough throw. But 2 of the 3 should have been touchdowns.
Monica, good to have you, Monica. Mr. Osborne said, "Go Big Orange." 40 years ago today, I was sitting in Neyland Stadium watching Tennessee come back and beat Bama 28-27. Tony Robinson got the 2-point conversion after Johnny Jones scored, and Vols win. That's what I'm talking about. Elijah said the energy in the stadium was elite. I think it's the second loudest registered that stadium has ever been. That was at 128.7 was the peak last night. Let's see. Mississippi Vol said, "Hey guys, what's up? Got to admit, I was nervous as I'll get out about this one. Glad they pulled it out. Amen, brother. Amen."
Yep.
Sam said, "Alabama player coming in from the sideline takes a dive. Alabama player stands over the ball to prevent a quick snap." Yep.
That was the one that bothered me actually more because when the coach, so the ref that threw the flag on the sideline saw the coach shove the player into the game. So that was going to be illegal participation no matter what. It didn't matter that he hit the ground. They were going to call illegal participation. The player standing over the ball and getting in the referee's way and not allowing us to get set, that should have been a delay of game penalty.
Absolutely.
That one drew me nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Keck said, "How about walk-on Will Brooks?" Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Billy said, "I'm just glad they beat him." Absolutely. Tony said, "Obviously, first half was rough on offense. Hoping we could have fixed that. Not yet. We got better in the second half for sure." Rhonda said, "This was a great birthday present. Go Vols." Oh, happy birthday, Rhonda. Hope you had a great day. Zach said, "I was surrounded with Bama fans saying after the game, calling cheating on James Pierce Jr." Elijah said they gave Bama. Yeah. Let's see. Kevin said, "At least we didn't get a flag called back by throwing mustard and golf balls on the field." Yeah, but if you go to Texas, it's okay though. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Yeah, Austin said he didn't want to bring it up, but he's glad we're going to talk about it. I'm specifically going to talk about what it has set a precedent for now because it's not good. I'm going to talk about that. Let's see. Richard said, "I heard that Ole Miss got a new offensive coordinator. Did their other one fall and get injured? LOL, go Big Orange."
I think you mean Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma fired Seth Littrell today and promoted Joe John Finley, their tight ends coach, a.k.a. we're going to run the ball now. Like we've been saying for months, air raid coaches and defensive head coaches don't go together. It was only a matter of time.
Bill said we left 20 points on it. We left more than that, Bill. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute.
Yeah.
Elijah said when Nico scrambled for 20-something yards, it seemed like that was a turning point. I agree. I totally agree. Oreo Puppy Dog said, "Why has Will Brooks not gotten a scholarship yet?"
I don't think he needs it.
Yeah, I don't think he's gotten a scholarship yet. I would be shocked if he is not getting the equivalent of a scholarship.
Maybe the flat NIL money that they all get, but
right.
He's from Vestavia Hills. He doesn't need it.
Yeah.
He can pay tuition.
Audrey said, "How was that not a foul standing over the ball?" Yep, totally agree.
Absolutely. Not only was it a delay of game penalty, what blew my mind was one of the two guys who was standing there made contact with the ref. And it was like, what in the world? Like, why are we allowing any of this to happen right now?
Yeah.
It could have been any number of penalties.
Absolutely. Backflip Spaghetti said, "What's up, Vol Bros? The new AP shocked me. I didn't think we'd climb that high. I did not either. I was shocked as well." And he said, I didn't think Bama would drop that far. That was even more surprising to me that they fell that far.
I expected us to go to 7. I actually told my son last night after the game because he asked me that question. I said, I think they'll flip us. I think in the new poll we'll be 7 and Bama will be 11. I was surprised Bama fell all the way to 15. That was interesting.
Tony said, I know y'all asked for player of the game later, but if Will Brooks or Jamon McCoy are not mentioned, something's bad wrong. Well, Tony, you are going to be very happy then, buddy, when I give my player of the game. Evan, welcome, Evan. Evan's a Bama fan. He said, tough loss. Both teams should have blown each other out. It's going to take time for Bama fans to get used to these kinds of teams. Very undisciplined football.
That's the understatement of the year. Malachi Moore might murder somebody before this season's over. That guy's completely out of control.
Yeah. Let's see. Kevin said, how bad is Kalen's hot seat now? So this is what's sad. Last night, my mom called me at like 9 o'clock. And so she started asking me about Kalen DeBoer, and she's like, I wonder if fans are calling for him to be fired. And it's sad that I thought this, but I did. I told her, I was like, I just hope he's not getting death threats tonight. Because if you'll remember, back in whatever year it was that the Auburn-Alabama kick 6 happened, that night after that game, there was a lady who was a Bama fan who shot and killed another Bama fan after that game because she said she wasn't upset enough that they had lost. And so, I mean, like, some of those people are legit crazy. And I was legitimately concerned for Kalen's personal safety last night.
2022, there's always going to be people who are going to want him fired. 2022, coming off of, multiple national championships, Bama went 10-2. And I listened to Mac and Cube in Birmingham almost every day. And there were constant Alabama fans calling in to their show saying it was time for Saban to go because 10-2 was unacceptable. And it's like, y'all need to chill out a little bit. 10-2 is not a bad year. It happens. And there's a lot of teams, Kentucky, who would love to go 10-2 at any given time. So they better watch what they want, because I guarantee you Washington would take him back in a heartbeat. And now that they're
for sure.
And now that they're in the Big Ten and they get that money, they could buy his buyout. Like they could figure that out.
Rhonda said, don't you think these tough games are making us tougher in the way of handling adversity? Close games likely to happen in the playoffs. That's a great point.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's a very good point.
I think what we've learned about this season is there's not going to be an easy game. That 12-team college football playoff, every one of those games is a toss-up. Like that, anything can happen.
Well, Rustin, before we keep going through the comments, let's give our takeaways from the game. What were your takeaways from last night?
Well, I'll go back to the 3 keys I gave Thursday night. Number 1, needed a big day out of Chris Brazzell. He only had 2 catches for 27 yards, but he was targeted 8 times.
Yeah, and 2 of them, he should have caught. One hit him right in the hands and he dropped it, and the other one went straight through his hands on a deep ball that Nico actually had accuracy on.
One he ran a double move and got behind the DB, and the guy tackled him and got a pass interference because he knew he was beat. But I think the more important thing is he had 8 targets. And, we said he needs a big day. You can have a big day.
He made the catch when they needed at the end.
Yeah, he made the biggest catch of the night. And he, there's such a thing as just being a threat. And clearly they said, we are going to make sure Chris Brazzell's a threat. So I love that. I think we stumbled onto something on that touchdown that I hope they start running a whole lot more of, especially as dinged up as Squirrel is. I would love to see Chris Brazzell in the slot with Dante Thornton and Brew McCoy at the edges. That's tough. That will create a lot of issues for people. The second thing I said was, if Jeremiah Thielander and Arian Carter have a big night, that means Jalen Milroe isn't. Jalen Milroe finished with 14 carries for 11 yards.
Yep.
Huge Night by Jeremiah Lander and Arian Carter. And then the third thing was I wanted to see motion on every single play, similar to what Vanderbilt did to Alabama. I was on 6 hours of flights and 3 hours of layover today. So between flights and airports, I was in airports for 9 hours, and I'm flying American today, which is just awful, and has terrible internet and no TVs. So I had lots of time to watch the game repeatedly. And Tennessee called motion on 72% of their plays. So I had time to sit and track that today. So 72% of their plays, offensive motion. I was very happy to see that. They were definitely doing what we said. They were trying to simplify things for Nico. It was good to see that.
Have you seen Ben Rector's little reel about American Airlines?
I avoid American Airlines like the plague. I didn't have a choice because of flight times, and Delta, for some reason, did not like the place I was going to. And so for the first time in like 10 years, I had to fly American. And it's the absolute worst, hands down. It's not close. They shouldn't be allowed to have planes.
Ben Rector said, American Airlines, when you don't need to get there on time.
Yeah.
And then it goes, or have a good time getting there.
My favorite is they, Delta, all the Delta planes, if you're going more than 2 hours, they're going to have in-flight entertainment. They've got TVs in the chairs. They have tons of recent movies. They've got lots of good options. I think American Airlines called Prime Video and said, hey, what were all the movies and TV shows that you all didn't take? Like, what's the third tier of movies and TV shows? We want all of those. And they have this crazy spotty internet, and you have to sit there and watch it on your device because there's no TVs in the seats. A 3.5 hour flight with no TVs trying to watch a screen this big is misery. With internet that keeps going out the whole time.
Audrey said she is truly sorry you're having to fly American Airlines.
It will be, the flight back will be the last time for about another 10 years.
Austin said, Rustin with the airport deep dives. We need him on our American Airlines all the time.
No. If Delta's watching, I will give you all the shout outs in the world if you would like to be a sponsor. I only fly Delta. This was a worst case scenario, and just miserable.
Well, here's my takeaways from the game. First of all, I tweeted out yesterday afternoon about 1 o'clock. I said, Tennessee fans need 2 things to happen today. Number 1, a Tennessee win, and number 2, a Georgia win. And both of those things happened. That was absolutely huge for Tennessee that Georgia beat Texas. Because now Georgia jumped all the way up to number 2 in the AP poll today. And if Tennessee wins out but slips up in Athens, that loss will not knock them out of the playoff. And so that was absolutely huge, because a 2-loss Georgia team beating Tennessee is a much different story than a 1-loss Georgia team ranked number 2 in the country beating Tennessee at home. So that gave Tennessee a little bit of breathing room. That was a big deal. Another takeaway from yesterday, I love Squirrel White. I think he is tough as nails. I think that he is a fantastic wide receiver. But if you cannot raise your right arm higher than chest level, you can't play. I mean, like, that's the bottom line. And I respect the dude for trying to get out there and get after it. I really do. But if he can't raise his arm, he does not need to be on the field. And so, I mean, at that point, if you're a wide receiver, your arms are kind of important, like you got to use them. And so if he can't raise his arm, he doesn't need to be on the field. That's the bottom line.
He was already dealing with a shoulder issue, and they said last night they took him to the hospital to X-ray for broken ribs. So this bye week couldn't come at a better time.
Absolutely. The main thing I took away from last night, and Evan kind of mentioned this. I agreed with half of what he said earlier, Evan Myrick. Tennessee absolutely dominated that entire game on offense and defense. But unfortunately, stupid mistakes imposed upon themselves offensively in the first half kept that game close. They left a minimum of 26 points on the field in the first half. 2 overthrow touchdowns that the dudes could have moonwalked into the end zone if they had caught in stride, because Squirrel White had 2 steps on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Brazel had a step on the guy that was on the one that was overthrown to him. I mean, both of them were wide open. So that's 14 points right there. We missed 2 field goals. That's another 6 points. So now we're up to 20. Then they had 2 turnovers inside Bama's 20-yard line. So you're automatically in field goal range already at that point. So if you don't turn the ball over and you settle for field goals inside the 20, that's another 6 points. That's 26 points. That 26 points combined with the 24 that they scored, that's 50 points. People are saying at halftime, Heupel's doing a terrible job. Hello, 50 points is what we should have had on the scoreboard. And none of that was Heupel's fault. It was people making stupid decisions on the field. Heupel was calling a heck of a game. I mean, it was both encouraging and infuriating at the exact same time in that first half, because Tennessee's defense, Tennessee will have a chance in every single game they play. If they make it to the college football playoff, they will have a chance in every single game they play in that playoff because of their defense. Their defense, we have now gone 7 games into this season. No one has even touched 20 points yet. Really, the most they've allowed is 17 last night. I know you say, okay, well, they allowed 19 at Arkansas. Yeah, because they let them walk into the end zone the last score of that game. Really, they would have only given up 15 to Arkansas because Arkansas would have just kicked a field goal if they hadn't let them walk in the end zone. But they had to get the ball back, and I understand that. So really, the most points they've honestly allowed was last night, 17. Every game, Tennessee is going to be in the game because their defense is the best defense in the country. I don't think anybody can argue that now. They are fantastic. And so last night, I mean, 50-7 or 50-17, that would have been pretty good. But even though they made so many just stupid mistakes in the first half, kudos to them for getting it together and playing a really strong second half. Anytime you win against Bama, it's a good day. And kudos to Josh Heupel for beating Florida and Alabama, Tennessee's 2 biggest rivals, in back-to-back weeks. That's incredible what he's done. Some of the other comments came through. Tony said the crowd was very good, but I promise you it could have been much better. I saw several thousand near me just standing, not saying a word. If people don't believe it, my son has a video of it. It's a fact. Kevin said, I heard Bama fans who hated how he looks. They were frustrated with their inconsistent play. Now they lose to Vandy and Tennessee same year. He's got to feel some real pressure, right? Yeah, for sure. Austin said, is there a precedent for firing coordinators mid-season? I can't think of any others off the top of my head. I can't either. Not after literally halfway through your season. You're right.
Typically, if you're firing coordinators mid-year, it's either because your team is just falling apart or you've got a massive internal power struggle. And knowing Seth Littrell and his personality, it's an internal power struggle.
Mr. Jones said, Heupel's offense requires a dual threat quarterback. Hooker thrived. Milton struggled. Difference being Hooker ran fearlessly. Let's see. I remember a couple 80-yard. I think Joe Milton holds the record for longest touchdown run by a quarterback in Neyland Stadium.
There's a couple of big differences there. Hendon Hooker had the ability to be dual threat because Joe was standing on the sideline. if Hendon got dinged up, they were okay. Joe couldn't be dual threat because Nico wasn't ready, as evidenced by the first 6 weeks of this season. And if Nico gets banged up, whoa, Gaston Moore's coming in and chucking it 40 yards in the air to nobody. So got to kind of limit those runs.
Oil Puppy Dog said Vandy's ranked now. They sure are, number 25. Isn't it wild to think that the Tennessee Vanderbilt game could end up being a top 25 matchup? That's pretty wild.
If you look at Vandy's remaining schedule, it won't be.
Elijah said Jermon McCoy's the best cornerback in the country. He held arguably one of the best receivers in the nation to 5 catches, 25 yards, and a pick when Jermon was covering him. Yeah. It's hard to argue with this. I think he is undoubtedly the best defensive corner in the SEC. I mean, like, who could you make a case is better than him right now? And when you look at the nation as a whole, it's hard to argue that too. I mean, easily top 5, easily top 3. The guy is just having a phenomenal year. Audrey said, you can be a walk-on if you're getting a degree that isn't available in your home state. Then you can attend/play without paying tuition, along with getting free room and board plus NIL. There you go. Evan said, Bama fans need to chill out. They don't remember what it was like before Saban. We're fine. It's just going to take some time. Let's see. Mississippi Vol said, I can remember back in 1987 when Alabama lost the Iron Bowl. They threw bricks through Bill Curry's office windows.
Mm-hmm.
Sean said, if I have to pick against the Vols for them to keep winning, I'm throwing this contest on purpose. I respect that. That's commitment. Let's see. Elijah said, the touchdown pass to Brazel was beautiful. It was. Kevin said, I get Squirrel dropping a couple. He's really hurt, but Brazel dropping those frustrates me more, especially the one on the sideline that literally hit him right in the hands. It was a comeback route, hit him right in the hands, just dropped it. Elijah said, also our linebackers played amazing, especially with Peely out. Yeah, I totally agree. Zach said he wants Dante Thornton Jr. to play more. I agree. Put him on the field. I totally agree.
I think he's a little dinged up and they're picking their spots. It'll be interesting to see once this 2 weeks is done, and if they can slide Brazel inside, because that's the other thing. One of the reasons they don't slide Brazel inside is this offense is hard to learn. And, what is the Z position, which is what he's playing right now, is very different than the slot. And so, he hadn't had a whole lot of time to learn both positions. If he can, in these 2 weeks, learn the slot position and they can put Thornton at the Z and him inside, that's just going to make everybody better.
Let's see here. Jared said, my 2 favorite parts of the game was getting the W and watching the Cops versus fans battle for the field goal post.
Cops won. There's a few fans that went home not feeling real great about themselves too.
Let's see. Mr. Jones said Tennessee's defense is carrying the low while Nico grows, and if we can keep winning, progressing each week, come playoff time, we can be dangerous. I totally agree. 100% agree. Backflip Spaghetti said Squirrel needs to heal before any more play. I don't like calling those stretch out plays with him.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones said, if Tennessee scores 30, I don't think anybody can beat us. I agree, 100%. Literally, no one.
Statistically, all we have to score is 21. Nobody's broke 20.
Yep. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think there's a team in the country who's going to put up 30 points on Tennessee. 100% agree.
Bama's last 4 drives, think about this, okay, the most crucial time of the game, with Jalen Milroe at quarterback, their final 4 drives, 0 first downs.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Audrey said our offensive line wasn't terrible. Hey, that's exactly right.
I wondered watching that if the amount of motion they were calling was actually helping the offensive line too, because they see guys moving in front of them. But if we go in motion and somebody flies across the field in coverage, they know, okay, that's man. He just ran with him, so that guy over there isn't coming. I'm probably blocking this guy right here. So I wondered some of that, if that was the motion actually helped the offensive line identify who they were taking as well.
Let's see. Zach said, rooting for Georgia, gross. But it helped Tennessee last night, that's for sure.
Yep.
Mr. Jones said, can Vandy beat Texas next Saturday? I mean, I didn't think they would have beat Alabama, so who knows?
No. Vandy,
let's see here.
Vandy may have spent the week getting ready for Texas because they looked awful against Ball State. It was 14-14 going into the fourth quarter. And Vandy had to score 10 points in the last 8 minutes to win that thing 24-14. That's a 2-5 Ball State team.
Yep.
So I think the magic's going to wear off soon.
Oreo Puppy Dog said, why are we not rotating the wide receivers like Mike Matthews in? Great question. Don't know. That's a very good question.
He, Chaz Nimrod, and Caleb Webb all got a lot of snaps in the second half. So I think we're going to start seeing them more. But again, it comes back to how hard this offense is. If you're a wide receiver might be the most difficult position in this offense. Because there's very few set calls. Almost everything is adjusting to what the guy in front of you is doing on the fly. And for freshmen, that's hard.
Bobby said he agreed with my take on the game. I appreciate that. Doug said should have had a safety on Milroe. James Pierce Jr. was being held in the end zone, but the ref has blinders on. Yeah, somebody else. I think it was Amari Thomas.
Tackled. Yes, that was egregious.
I mean, they legit tackled him and took him to the ground.
He had
that very play.
He had his hand on Milroe's shoulder pad and was about to grab a hold of him, and the dude blocking him literally just put both arms around him and took him to the ground.
Yeah, around his knees.
It was ridiculous.
Yep. Kevin said, if we can hold Georgia, I don't think anybody will be able to argue we don't have the best defense. Yeah, totally agree.
Well, right now, statistically, we are the number one defense in America for the third week in a row.
Yep.
That's not a opinion. That's literal stats.
Jared, I did see that video. I wonder what sparked that. But I did see that.
Oh, it was definitely his dad. He's been on a lot of Jalen stuff. I don't know what the lady said, but whatever it wasn't good.
Yeah, I agree. Austin said, I wasn't at the airport, but I spent a lot of my time today hate watching Alabama podcasts. It was glorious. Sam said, Tennessee had a lot of recruits at the game. I don't know how you can be in Neyland when it's rocking and not want to be part of it. Unmatched. Yeah, totally agree.
One of the top interior offensive linemen in the class of 26 committed this morning after last night. He was there with Faison Brandon, the 26 quarterback who was in attendance. Also, David Sanders Jr., 25, number one player in America. And then Tony V did some work this weekend as well. The number 31 player nationally in baseball committed to Tennessee. He's out of Oak Ridge. Michael Teasley picked Tennessee over LSU and Arizona State. So really good pickup for Tony V today. Also because of the game.
Carl said Heupel was just flexing. He was like, hey, we'll spot you a half against Florida and Alabama, and we'll still beat you. I like that take, Carl. I agree with you, man. I bet that's what was going on. Let's see. Sanders said, hey, guys, good to have you, Sanders. She said, who was y'all's player of the game? We're about to get to that here in just a second. I'm almost caught up on the comments. Doug said no yards after the catch for Williams was huge. He only had about 7. That's exactly right.
It'll be interesting to see what he does the rest of the year because the book is now out on him. If you want to disrupt him, get up on the line of scrimmage and punch him in the mouth. He does not like it. That that back shoulder throw that Jermon McCoy picked off, Williams didn't even attempt for it. He just let him catch it. He wanted none of that.
Greg said, do you think Nico took a step forward that will stick? I hope so.
Yeah, he's just going to get better and better.
Kevin said, I love that Hype, who's been branded as an offensive-minded air attack guy, has the best defense and runs the ball. Absolutely.
Number one running back in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Audrey said, Dante Thornton Jr. is being put in games when he at needed times. I agree. Hopefully he gets even more run. Mr. Osborne said, Jalen Milroe targeted Ryan Williams 19 times. I was surprised that they threw from the 3-yard line that McCoy intercepted. The old Bama would have tried running it there. Agreed. Ash McVall said 3 + 2 = 5 yards after catch. That's pretty good. Let's see. Eric said Arion Carter was a big reason Tennessee won last night. Absolutely.
And Jeremiah Thielander and Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith had a heck of a night. Watching that back, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but on our final 3 defensive possessions, Jalen Smith was on the field for all 3. I mean, he played a heck of a game.
Yeah, Zach said all 7 games, no one scored more than 20. Nobody else has done that. Yeah, Tennessee hasn't done that since the 1960s was the last time that's happened. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. Kevin said, how much did Tennessee learn from Vandy's defense when it came to shutting down Milroe and Bama? I think they learned something. I mean, they got something on him. JL said, crowd had an effect for sure. Elijah said, not only was it 0 first downs, it was only 4 yards total in the last 4 drives. Mr. Jones says, is this Tennessee's best defense ever? I mean, it's hard to, if you want to go back to like the 1925 team when they were beating people 100-something to nothing, I mean, that could work. But I mean, in modern football, yes. I mean, how could anybody say it's not, you know?
I'm going to go ahead and say, I was looking at this today when I was watching all of those games, or I was watching that game over and over. Over the next 3 years, I think there will be at least 20 guys on this defense that either get drafted or signed as undrafted free agents. I think we'll put at least 20 guys over the next 3 years into the NFL off this defense. It is insane how much depth there is.
Yep. Tony said, I think we need to score at least 30 in Athens. I would love it if we scored at least 30 in Athens. That would be nice. We have a Georgia fan in the comments here. Justin, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said, good win for Tennessee. I am very grateful that Georgia beat Texas as well, because that helped Tennessee as well. So it was a good day for both of us. Elijah was talking about that baseball player committing. Yep. Austin said, I think Bama's problem is most of their roster is used to a disciplinarian and Saban, and now they have a players coach. They looked really undisciplined with the longer leash. Yeah. Justin said, honestly, Tennessee has a solid shot against Georgia, if I'm being honest, with the way our offense has played lately. All these upsets in college football, anything can happen.
Yeah. Every week's going to be a crapshoot.
Jonathan, I love it, buddy. Thank you, man. He said, you should get Dennis Tumlin on here. Hey, I texted him as soon as the game was over, and I said, the jersey's undefeated. And he replied back, yes, in all caps. Exclamation point. He was pumped up. He got photos of him and his family on the field again. Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Justin said Tennessee's defense is killer. Absolutely dominated Bama. Yes, they did. Only allowed 75 rushing yards. That's pretty awesome. Elijah said, Dylan Sampson's number 1 running back in the SEC, number 2 in the country. Absolutely. Let's see. Rhonda said, we absolutely have to keep Coach Banks. Amen, sister. Amen. He's already being talked about for other jobs, rumors and stuff. They got to keep him.
The one positive we have there is William Inge, our linebackers coach, was the defensive coordinator at Washington under Kalen DeBoer. So, we've got a guy standing there who can easily step in and fill that role.
Doug said, I would have never have thought we would have more depth than Bama, but the tables have turned. Amen, brother. Isn't that awesome? That's a fantastic. I'm so glad you said that, Doug. That's a great point. Tony said Deshaun Bishop had a few carries, ran hard. Yeah, he did. Selden is not the same. I know he's been injured. He's got to get back with it.
I was really surprised they played him. Everything I'd heard was we were heading toward a red shirt. He didn't play at all last week, and I was really surprised when he rolled out there.
Caleb said most of this defense will be back next year as well.
It will.
We're going to lose James Pierce Jr. We're going to lose Bryson Eason. We're going to lose Omari Thomas. We're going to lose Omar Norman Lott. We're going to lose Keenan Peely.
Almost the entire linebacking core returns. Almost the entire secondary does. If Will Brooks keeps his COVID year. Defensive line wise, we're playing 14 guys. If 4 or 5 leave, we still got 10.
That's true.
And Jordan Ross sitting in that 14.
Yep. Tony said Jalen McMurray played quite a bit at corner. He did. Absolutely. Man, I'm telling you what, I love it when Jacoby Thomas is in the game. That dude's just fun to watch, man. He is a blast.
He had his best game of the year last year at MTSU against Alabama, and he had his best game so far this year against Alabama.
Yeah, that dude, he's just fun to watch. Robert said Tennessee's going to have to pony up the money to keep Banks. I agree. That play that Jacoby Thomas made in the backfield in the first half, tackle for loss, man, it was just gorgeous. He shot the gap and beautiful tackle.
He was everywhere. The one thing we know about Danny White, money will not be an issue.
That's true. Rusty made a really good point. He said this season is turning into a nice send-off for the remaining Pruitt players that stuck around. Yeah, that's a really good point. Absolutely. Elijah said give James Banks a blank check. Oriole Puppy Dog said this player of the game was Will Brooks. 5 tackles, 3 assists, game-winning interception. Absolutely. Mr. Jones said, hi, Samson. Tony said, is Christian Charles hurt? Don't remember seeing him. I think he was in the game.
Yeah, he played about 10 snaps in the second half. He was in there.
Elijah said Dylan needs to be in Heisman conversations at this point. Oriole Puppy Dog said Bishop refuses to go down, and I love it.
If we beat Georgia, Dylan will be in the Heisman talks at that point.
Yeah. Rusty said this is the kind of game where the portal exodus is killing Alabama. The team is just okay now. Zach said I was watching Josh Pate, and he was saying when we play this game, this is all that matters in the moment. Van looks like an Alabama fan. I'm thinking by the profile. I said, congrats on the wins, Vols fans. Y'all have a great team and fan base. So, hey, we appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's see. Eric said he doesn't think Georgia will be able to score 20 on Tennessee's defense either, based on how Carson Beck has played lately. What was wild last night was in the first half, he had, I think, or maybe it was almost at halftime, he had 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and Georgia was up by over 20 points. Like, it was kind of bizarre. Let's see. Austin said Hype may have been playing 3D chess in the hiring of Inge. Wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't talked about him taking over after Banks takes the head coaching job.
100%.
Tony said, speaking of Jacoby Thomas, I talked to his dad on the field after the game. He wants him to play more. So do I. Audrey said Dylan Sampson needs his own Weeble Wobble. Let's see. All right, so I'm caught up. How about that? That's pretty cool. Rustin, I want to do play of the game first. What was your play of the game?
Well, obviously the most important play of the game was Chris Brazel's touchdown, but I thought the most impressive play of the game was Nico scrambling to his right, throwing it 45 yards in the air and putting it where only Dante Thornton could catch it. And then Dante Thornton catching it with his fingertips and making just an incredible catch. You know, that was impressive.
Yeah. I think both of those are fantastic choices. Audrey said, I've shown my age. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Oh, Weebles wobble, Weebles wobble. I remember, absolutely. Bobblehead dolls, I guess, is what we're going to call them now. Carl said that's his play of the game as well. Elijah said absurd athleticism by Nico on that throw.
Yep. Well, and the accuracy to be running to the sideline, throw a ball at that angle, and put it right on the money. That was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that was Elijah's play of the game as well. Zach said his play of the game as well. Mr. Jones said the shoestring tackle by Will Brooks was his play of the game. That's a good one as well. My play of the game was hang on. Justin said if Tennessee can just fix the simple things on offense, like the deep shots from Nico and not making bad decisions, this is a national championship caliber team. I totally agree, buddy, because their defense is, I mean, arguably the best defense. I think it's the best defense in the country. I know I have orange colored glasses, but they haven't allowed 20 points in a single game yet. So, I mean, their defense gives them a chance to win every game they play. I agree. Let's see. There's some other folks giving their plays of the game. I'm going to give mine. Jermon McCoy's interception I mean, that play from start to finish. Ryan Williams never had a chance. Jermon McCoy even talk about lockdown corners. He locked him down literally on that play. He had him at arm's length, not allowing him to get into the end zone, and then positioned himself in front of him, jumped up, made a one-handed catch interception. And then Jacoby Thomas comes over and gives him a heck of a block on Ryan Williams to spring him down the sideline. That was my play of the game. There was, from snap to finish, it was a master class on playing cornerback by Jermon McCoy on arguably one of the best receivers in the country. So it was phenomenal. That was my play of the game. Oreo Puppy Dog said Nico finally running up the field. That long run, that was a good run, about 20-something yards. Important timing as well. Keg said that shoestring tackle by Will Brooks. Rusty said Will Brooks made 2 game-saving plays. Yes, he did. Made 2 touchdown-saving tackles on the same drive. Carl said Nico's run towards the end was massive. Josh said Nico's just now getting it. He will get better. Go Vols, absolutely. Sandra said she wants to see Nico hit the wide receivers more. I think everybody agrees with that for sure. Robert said his play of the game was Will Brooks' interception.
I will say that was a heck of a read by Will Brooks. He was
He
was dropping back in a cover zone and recognized that there wasn't going to be anybody attempting to get behind him, and he broke off his drop and stuck to the receiver and then stepped right in front. That's people don't realize how hard that is to do. That was really impressive.
Major compliments from Marion Carter to Will Brooks after the game as well. Austin said Nico passed better on the run, just like Bryce Young and Jaden Daniels. It's like he doesn't have time to overthink while planting on his back foot, causing an overthrow. I think it's a fair point. Mr. Jones said play of the game, lighting with cigars. I think that's a winner there. That's probably a good one right there. Rebel Jew, that's a funny name. He said, I'm guessing it's a he. I think Tennessee and Georgia will play for the SEC championship. Whoever loses a regular season game will be the winner in the SEC championship. So I think that's, a fair prediction. I don't think it's going to happen because Texas's remaining schedule is very, very winnable.
Yeah.
They do not play another good team really the rest of the season. So I know they're playing Vanderbilt this weekend, and Vanderbilt beat Alabama. I get that, but like Vanderbilt and Kentucky are the 2 best teams remaining on their schedule. So Texas will win out. They will have 1 loss. Tennessee and Georgia, one of the 2 of them will have 2 losses. So Tennessee and Georgia will not play each other in the SEC championship game. It's going to be the winner of that game in Texas. If LSU wins out, which I don't know if they will or not, but if they did, well, then we really got something going on, because then all the chaos starts. Let's see, LSU right now. Hang on, I'm going to look up their schedule real quick.
I've got it right here.
All right, so their remaining games: Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. They're going to beat Florida. They're going to beat probably Vanderbilt. They're going to beat Oklahoma. They might lose to Alabama. I think they'll beat Texas A&M. So right now, LSU has 0 conference losses.
That A&M game's in A&M. I wouldn't be so quick to give them that. Brian Kelly has one game a year where he just blows everything, so that could be the one.
So since they have 0 conference losses, they're actually in conference standings ahead of Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama and Texas right now.
That loss to USC should count as 2 conference losses.
Beach Purdue. I saw you tweeted that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. From this point forward, I will only be referring to USC as Beach Purdue, which is the absolute best version of that name I've ever heard.
I mean, LSU is going to be in the SEC championship game unless they get beat by one of these teams. They will be in there. And so Tennessee, the likelihood that Tennessee gets in the SEC championship game is actually very low at this point, because LSU has a very clear path to the championship game. Texas still has a very clear path to the championship game, even if Tennessee wins out. If Tennessee wins out and Texas wins out and LSU loses one game, you've got 3 teams tied with 1 loss each in conference, and then all those crazy tiebreaker rules start coming into play, and those things are nuts. We did a whole segment about that like a few months ago. It's ridiculous, those tiebreaker rules. So who knows what's going to happen? Honestly, the best thing that could happen for Tennessee, in my opinion, is, and this is going to sound horrible, everybody's going to be like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. The best thing that can happen for Tennessee is for LSU to lose 2 games, like maybe to Alabama and Texas A&M. I know this is going to sound crazy. And Tennessee to lose at Georgia. And that puts Georgia and Texas in the SEC championship game. Tennessee does not have to play in the SEC championship game, and they've only lost to a team that won't knock them out of the playoff, because Georgia will be probably number 2 in the country when they play. So that loss won't hurt Tennessee enough to knock them out of the playoff, especially if LSU has already lost 2 other games as well, because LSU still has that USC loss hanging over them. So if they lose 2 conference games, they're out of the playoff at that point. I know. People are like, no, we want Tennessee in the SEC championship game. Well, ask Georgia that last year. Georgia played in the SEC championship game last year, lost, and it cost them a chance at the national championship game. So Tennessee's easiest path to the playoff honestly might be winning out, except for at Georgia. Fans aren't going to like that, but that might be the easiest path. Tony said, my play of the game, Milroe was gone for a long run, possible touchdown. Will Brooks made shoestring tackle. Absolutely. Justin said, Nico's getting better and better. Still a freshman. Absolutely. Arkansas, welcome. Good to have you. Said, did Tuscaloosa Police Department actually put out a warrant for him? No. That was a fake tweet on right after the game. That was not true at all.
It was funny, but it wasn't true.
Rhonda said, love that Will Brooks is having success. He's very humble. Totally agree. Rusty said when his new nickname needs to be Vestavia Wills. Nice. Very nice. Eric said that Dylan Sampson run up the sideline was my play of the game. That was awesome. That was a good run. I also think on that run, we saw that Dylan is not 100% right now. Because you compare that to previous runs he's had this season in similar situations, and he turns on the afterburners and pulls away from people. He was noticeably a step slower on that run, which allowed him to get caught and shoved out of bounds. So whatever happened to him in the first half that had him sitting out for a little bit, they said a lower body injury. Yeah, you could see it on that run. He was not as fast as he normally was. Doug said Jermon McCoy's interception should be taught in camps of how to play DB. I agree, 100%. 100% agree. Cake said we hadn't heard Willie Martinez's name once this season. Isn't that funny? I love that. That's the best comment yet, man. I love it. I love that. That's great. Yeah, nobody's had an issue with Willie this year. That's for sure. Rusty said it feels like LSU, Texas A&M, and Tennessee, Georgia winners would make it. Texas is going to be in. I mean, they have an easy path.
Yeah. And I
say
let them all have it. Let's finish 8th or 9th in the final poll and cakewalk into the playoffs and let them all beat each other up in that championship game.
Carl said A&M is actually lead in first place in the SEC right now, so they must not have a conference loss either at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, Doug said, looks like Willie can coach after all. Absolutely. Chad, welcome, buddy. He said, let's be honest, Texas ain't all that. They struggle moving the ball on Georgia. Texas will most likely lose another game. If their schedule was tougher, yes, but they're not. Their schedule's weak.
They
Vanderbilt. Have played the toughest part of their schedule.
They've got Vanderbilt this weekend. They're going to beat them. Then they've got Florida at home. They'll win that. They're at Arkansas. I could see a weird scenario where they might fluke up there, but probably not. Then they play the worst Kentucky team in the last 10 years. They'll kill them. The only game left on their schedule that's a potential question mark is that final one at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the games before it, that's 4 wins.
Rusty said he thinks LSU is going to beat Alabama. They might. Let's see. Rebel Juice said LSU is going to beat Bama, but in a close game. JL said it's probably better that Tennessee doesn't play in the SEC championship. I mean, honestly, it really is.
Correct. It's a worthless game.
Yeah, Mr. Smith said Texas has to go to Texas A&M. They do. That's how they end their season. And talk about a place that'll be rocking. That will be rocking.
Yeah, that game's gonna matter a lot.
For sure. Mr. Jones said, from a dude standpoint, we match up well with Georgia and defense travels. Yeah, totally agree. 100%. Sam said, Texas A&M coach, that'd be Mike Elko, is doing an excellent job considering it's his first year. Hey, he's a good coach. They can beat LSU, especially at home. They can. Louisiana Vol said, I really hope that Brew McCoy gets his chance in the NFL. I'm only 23 years old. He is by far my favorite Vol that has come through Tennessee. So much heart in that young man. And yeah, I mean, sure-handed dude. That's his thing. He catches it. If it's in a zip code of where he is, he's going to catch it. Kevin said, doesn't Missouri only have one conference loss right now? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I knew they only had one loss. I can't remember if it was in conference or not.
Yeah.
Zach said the SEC championship game is not as important as the college football playoff. I agree. I would much rather be in the playoff than not be in the playoff.
The SEC championship game is not important at all. It's a worthless game. They need to get rid of it.
The only thing it's good for now is you get that automatic first round bye in the playoff. That's the only thing it's good for now.
The team who wins it probably would have gotten it anyway.
Justin Farmer said, man, Indiana beating the crap out of Nebraska is crazy. Nebraska, I know, bringing in a lot of portal talent, and most saying they were one of the most improved teams in the country. Not on Saturday.
This Saturday is going to be really interesting. So Indiana's quarterback got hurt during that game. Taven Jackson came in and played former Vol Taven Jackson came in and played extremely well, was 7 of 9 passing with 2 touchdowns, ran for about 40 or 50 yards. And they've already announced that the starter's out this week against Washington. So Taven Jackson gets his first start for an undefeated Indiana team.
Game day's going to be there.
Yeah, I tell you, Kurt Signetti, I don't know how he does it. But I looked it up this morning because I was just curious, and I pulled it up just now because I knew this would come up. Kurt Signetti, in his lifetime as a college football coach, has a record of 126 and 35. 126 and 35. Like, that dude's averaging a 10-2 season every year he's been a head coach. Like, at all levels. It doesn't matter what level it is. The dude just wins. It's amazing.
Carl said Vols run the table, SEC champs. I mean, that'd be great. That'd be great. I'd love it. You get a first round bye, they probably, unless Oregon runs the table, then the SEC champion is going to be either number 1 or number 2 in the playoffs. So, it'd be wonderful. Audrey said, did Richard G. West tweet it out about that?
Probably.
That's pretty good. Austin said, I don't see a team in the SEC championship missing the playoffs regardless of the winner. I agree. I don't know. Weird stuff's happened, but I agree. It would be tough for those two teams to not be in the playoff. I agree. Yeah, Kevin said the SC championship would give us a bye in the playoffs. It sure would. Ash McVall said, do we have clear tiebreaker rules yet? I haven't seen them. We do. So back in probably July, we did when they finally released the tiebreaker rules. That's how much controversy there was in those rules. They didn't even release them till a month before the season started. And so they finally released them, and we talked about it on one whole show. I'd have to go back and pull them up. It's a mess. It is a total mess. And it is very likely that I remember a letter, there were 5 things in the tiebreaker. The 4th one was the overall conference winning percentage of the team's opponents determines who goes to. So if there's like not a common opponent, which was the first one, if there's, and all these other things, but it could get down to who you played in conference, their average conference winning percentage determines if you get to go to the game or not. Whichever 2 teams had the highest one, or if it's one team, like if one team's undefeated and there's 3 1-loss teams, those 3 1-loss teams, all of their conference opponents on their schedule, the opponent's average conference winning percentage, whichever one was highest, that team that's 1 loss gets to go. So then it's not even in your own hands; it's being taken out of your hands. It's a mess. So who knows at that point if there's 3 1-loss teams? So
I wanted to share one other fun fact about Kurt Signetti that I found today that I did not know and blew my mind. So he got his start as he was a grad assistant at Pitt and Davidson and Rice and Temple. But then he got his first real job. He was the quarterback's coach at North Carolina State. He coached Phillip Rivers, and he was the coach responsible for convincing Russell Wilson to transfer. So his quarterbacks at NC State were Phillip Rivers and Russell Wilson. But this is what was more fascinating. He leveraged that recruiting ability to join Nick Saban in 2007 as Alabama's wide receiver and recruiting coordinator. The first 3 players he recruited to Alabama, Julio Jones, Mark Ingram, and Dante Hightower.
Those guys were okay.
Clearly, Kurt Signetti can spot talent, and clearly he can convince them that they want to play for him. Like, that blew my mind.
Let's see. Rhonda, I think, just had the best point of the whole night. She said, "I'd rather have a home playoff game than an SEC championship game."
Amen.
That is fire emojis right there, Rhonda. That's what I'm talking about. That is my favorite quote of the night right there. Mr. Jones said 2 championships are greater than 1. I get that totally. I understand. You also run the risk of people getting hurt in the SEC championship game. I get it. I understand. I just want to be in the playoff. Whatever that means. However we get there, I just want to be in the playoff. That's all. Ash McVall said LSU and Texas A&M are both undefeated in conference play this week. Texas A&M plays Texas to end the season. LSU still has to play Bama, Vandy, Florida, and OU. Oklahoma's that doesn't matter anymore. The other 3 matter, but Oklahoma, they are struggling. They are in a bad way right now. Dan, welcome Dan. So Signetti is equivalent to DeBoer. Chad said, "How awesome would it be if things clicked with Nico Saturday and he started calling out go Vols?" I mean, I would love it. They don't play this week, but next week they play Kentucky, and so he said balling out. There you go. I think Justin's talking about Signetti.
Yeah. Well, he was on Saban's staff.
Yep. Texas, Mr. Jones said Texas is going to miss 12-team playoff because they threw bottles on the field. Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Austin said the conference decides the schedule. So how could that tiebreaker be in existence? Isn't that a conflict of interest? Austin, you're using too much logic, buddy.
Yeah. The SEC, the NCAA, and common sense do not go together. Stop putting logic on them. They don't use it.
JL said, "Let's hit the thumbs up for the Vol Bros." Hey, I love that. That's a great idea. Subscribe while you're doing it too. That'd be great. Sam said, "Will Missouri versus Alabama be our first big elimination game in the SEC?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if Missouri beats Alabama, Alabama's not getting in the playoff. They have no chance at that point. And vice versa. So I mean, yeah, it's an elimination game, no doubt. Alabama, listen, they got a tough road ahead of them now. They are on the outside looking in a bad way. We'll talk about that when we put the stuff up on the screen. Reese said, "Just think that Vanderbilt game could be a playoff eliminator for both teams." Yeah, that's exactly right. Sean said, "Hopefully Florida doesn't hire Signetti."
I'm less worried about that. Nobody wants that Florida job. It's a dumpster fire. Internally, it's just an absolute mess, and their administration's even more of a mess. I'm more concerned about if Kalen DeBoer ever decided to leave Alabama. There's a guy who has an office in the building right now that I guarantee you would look at that administration and go hire Kurt Signetti.
Yep.
So that's the one we should be more concerned about.
I agree with Rebel Jew here. He said it'd be nice if Tennessee versus Texas was for the Natty. Vols need to show them who has a better orange and who the real true UT is. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. Same as what % of the tickets does a home playoff team get? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Rhonda's right. She said SEC games this year have been unpredictable. Everybody needs to hold on to their britches. Absolutely. Rebel G just asked, does Bama still have a playoff chance? So not really. It kind of, because they're Bama and the playoff team committee. I think
if they minuscule. I think if they win out, so that means they would beat LSU at LSU. They would beat Missouri. If they win out, I think they could creep up to number 11 and sneak in.
Darth Ducky, he's back. Welcome, buddy. Welcome back. It's the Oregon fan that was talking to us a week of Oklahoma. He said, "Are you talking about Deion Sanders? Is that what he's talking about?"
Yeah.
Let's see.
And he doesn't care if it's a dumpster fire because he's just going to turn it into even more of one. So he thrives on the drama. He would love it.
Yeah, Rustin already answered that question from Justin. Let's see. Mr. Smith, that's a good question. He said, can two linebackers with the green communication in your helmet, communication device, be on the field at the same time? I don't believe so. I don't think so. But maybe. I don't know. That's a good question.
They've got to have the ability to turn one off. I can't see a scenario where the NCAA would say they can't be on the field at the same time. That's crazy. They've got to be able to turn one off.
Yeah, I agree. Carl, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Hey, you didn't have to do that, buddy. We really appreciate it. I hope your house and everything is okay from Hurricane Milton. Hope you're doing okay, buddy. Thought about you all that week as that was going on. Let's see. Darth Dougie said he kind of wants Oregon to lose so they could host a playoff game in Autzen Stadium. Let's see here. Kevin said DeBoer had to stay at Bama and make an attempt running back to Washington too quickly. Seems like it would hurt his recruiting even up there. Yeah, I get that. I totally understand that. Rebel Juice said I could see Kiffin leave Ole Miss for Florida, no doubt. I feel like he reached his potential or glass ceiling at Ole Miss. Yeah, that's fair. Louisiana Vol said, did y'all read my comments? Was wondering what y'all thought. I think we did. I don't know. He said you put it up but didn't read it. Okay. Can you tell me one more time? Because I've just been trying to get them all on the screen. Reese said William Inge biggest coaching hire this year. His linebacker room is top tier. No drop off with Keenan Pili loss. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a good point.
I wouldn't even say almost. I didn't see a drop off. I saw Jeremiah Thielander do what we hoped he would do. I saw him rise to the occasion and play extremely well.
Carl, I'm glad you're doing well, buddy. I really am. I'm glad you're doing well. Ash McVall said, I heard on another program that in the playoff scenario, we are under no obligation to offer any tickets to the other school. Not sure if it's true, but that's what was stated. I mean, I'm sure they'd have to offer some for like family and stuff, but
yeah,
maybe not like the normal allotment. That's very interesting. Justin said Urban Meyer to Florida. I mean, that legit could happen. I'm not putting anything past him. Rhonda said, why would Florida want Kiffin besides sticking it to us? Well, because that's a good question.
I think the better question is, why would Kiffin want Florida? He's got a better situation right now. Like I cannot say strongly enough how bad the internal workings are at the University of Florida right now. It is an absolute chaotic mess. The president's probably going to get fired at some point because he's an interim. He's not long-term. The AD's probably going to get fired. Their NIL is just in shambles. Like, Ole Miss is a better gig right now than the University of Florida. I'm telling you, if they fire Billy Napier, watch what happens. They're going to have a hard time finding somebody to take that job.
Yeah. Mayhem, what's up, buddy? It's good to have you with us, man. He said we're going to have to do another stream with y'all in a couple weeks. That sounds great, man. We'd love to. That was a lot of fun. Mayhem has a Georgia podcast. I invite you to check him out. We got to be fortunate enough last year to be on it. It was a lot of fun. So he does a good job with it. Austin said, did you guys see the Bama receivers doing a fake jump shot on short yardage runs up the middle?
Yep.
It looked ridiculous. If you didn't, go look at the tape. I didn't see it.
It's insane. There's two of them standing right next to each other, and it was fourth and or third. I can't remember if it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. And the two of them weren't in the play, so they just both pretended they were Kobe and took jump shots during the game while the play was happening. It was just stupid.
Can you imagine if they had done that with Nick Saban as a head coach?
Oh, you should have seen the Bama fans commenting on the video of it saying, if this is all they were going to do, why didn't we roll in 2 more tight ends and keep blocking?
Yeah, exactly. Ash McVall said the other conferences don't do a lot of tickets like we do in the SEC. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Reese said, you guys think if Banks gets hired as a head coach somewhere, we hire Inge as our defensive coordinator? And Rhonda asked earlier, are we sure Banks wants to be a head coach? I mean, that's a fair question. I don't know. I mean, people just assume, but
Yeah, he's said in the past his goal is to be a head coach.
And let's not forget, he's already turned down a head coaching position at a Power 5 conference. Well, now it's Power 4. After this first year at Tennessee. Duke University tried to hire him as their head coach after year 1 at Tennessee, and he turned it down to stay at Tennessee. Duke ended up hiring Mike Elko, who's now at Texas A&M. So, I mean, people have been after him for a while. Darth Dougie said Florida needs a big name to resuscitate it. They're going to have to pay huge money for sure. Louisiana Vol said Texas looks really overrated, honestly. I was thinking they may be the best team in the SEC, but looking at their schedule, who do they really play? Then they got destroyed by Georgia at home. They did. They got beat pretty bad. Their offense struggled. So they're still probably going to end up making an SEC championship game, but time will tell. Time will tell. Let's see. I don't know what Mr. Jones is talking about. He said throw a flag or call a double dribble. I don't know what he's talking about.
So I just found the answer to that host game ticket question. They treat it like a regular season game. So the opposing team will have a certain allotment, but essentially for all intents and purposes, it's a home game. I mean, they'll offer tickets to season ticket holders first, and then it'll be open to general public. So, Tennessee fans could snatch up the rest of them before whoever they're playing does. But the visiting team just gets the typical little section over there, and any they can snatch up online.
Kevin said, welcome to our decade of coaching nightmare, Florida. It's fine. It's fine. David said that the jump shot thing was on a 4th and 1 play.
Bama fans were hopping mad. I mean, you should have seen the comments on that video.
TriStar said, like y'all said about logic, there isn't any in college athletics, especially eventually the Pac-12, Big 8, Southwestern Conference, Big East with Penn State, ACC with Southern Cal, and Maryland, and SEC with Georgia Tech and Florida State. It will happen in 20 years. He was talking about the jump shot thing on the. I gotcha. That's what Mr. Jones was talking about. Louisiana Vol said yes. Inge gets promoted if Banks leaves. Kevin said he's right. Texas's win over Michigan doesn't look as impressive as it did earlier in the season. He's exactly right. Michael, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said those players just proving Alabama's just a basketball school now. Rhonda said the same thing about the Michigan game. Absolutely. Rusty said that one drive where Alabama kept handing the ball off and got to midfield had me worried. I thought that was a great adjustment. Rebel Juice said, can Florida State afford to fire Norvell and replace him? So another element of that question is, can they afford to fire him and still pay the buyout to get out of the ACC like they're trying to do?
Yeah, that's the bigger issue. What if they're smart? What they'll do is they'll keep him, avoid the buyout, take an extra $10 million that they would have spent on the buyout, put it in their NIL bucket, and let him go raid the portal and get better real fast.
TriStar said, I was saying South Carolina in the ACC. I got you. Because that's the way it all used to be, right? So I guess it could all come for full circle. I don't think it will. I think you'll see 2, maybe 3 conferences, and that's it. Darth Dougie said, where's the Tennessee-Georgia game? It's in Athens. It's in Athens, Georgia. Louisiana Vol said, I honestly love that Florida's in the midst of the same thing we've been going through my entire life. Amen, brother. Amen. Justin said, is Ole Miss overrated? That's a good question.
I think they're a pretty typical Lane Kiffin team.
Elijah said, long show tonight, huh, guys? Yeah, it is. Rhonda said, wouldn't we lose recruits if we lose Banks? I mean, maybe some. I think that if we keep Rodney Garner, that's who we really need to keep.
Yeah.
Well, let's do our player of the game. You go first, Rustin.
There were a lot of guys who played extremely well. I think you could pick anybody on the defense and name them. I mean, the defense just did yeoman's work. But I said it last week, and I'll say it again: 26 carries for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. If Dylan Sampson's not on the field, we don't win.
Yeah, you're right.
It's 2 weeks in a row he's put us on his back. God just keeps doing it. It's incredible.
So if I had to rank order, because I thought about this a lot, my fourth place player of the game would be James Pierce Jr. 2 sacks all the time in the backfield, had a tremendous game. Third place would be Will Brooks, not just because of the game, ending interception. He saved a touchdown on the Milroe tackle around his feet. I mean, he saved a touchdown right there because nobody was between him and the end zone. So that saved a touchdown. He saved another touchdown later on the same drive. So Will Brooks would have been number 3. Dylan Sampson would have been my second place vote getter for player of the game. My number 1 player of the game was Jermon McCoy. That dude, not only did he have that incredible interception, he shut down half the field. Not even in the passing game, in the run game. There was one play, I think it was early in the second half. Milroe tried to escape, I think they're actually running a sweep with Milroe. And tight end comes out to block Jermon McCoy. McCoy maintains outside leverage on the guy, forces Milroe back inside, and Arion Carter's there to make a tackle. He did that dude. He made a name for himself. If he hadn't already, he made a name for himself last night. And it was a privilege and fun to watch him play the game. How long has it been since we've had a cornerback playing this well? I mean, people might say Cameron Sutton, but Jermon McCoy's having a better season than any season Cam had at Tennessee. I mean, you got to go back a ways to find a corner that was playing as well as Jermon McCoy is right now.
Ricky Gibson's actually playing really well too. It's just getting overshadowed.
Yep, you're right.
I tell you, when you got 2 corners that can do the things those 2 guys are doing, it opens up a lot of opportunities as a defensive coordinator. You can get real creative.
Amen. Austin said Jermon McCoy is his player of the game. Elijah said player of the game was Jermon McCoy. Close second was Dylan Sampson. Doug said Will Brooks is player of the game. Let's see. Mr. Jones said Sampson better not cut his hair. There you go. Rusty said Vol commit Jaden Harmon shut down his recruitment today. He sure did. Let's see. Rebel Jew said Nico was supposed to be the heart of Tennessee this year, but it's by far Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
Agreed. Rhonda said she agrees. Dylan Sampson definitely. Brooks was huge. So was Brew McCoy. Elijah said, I agree with that exact order, Evan. I appreciate that. Let's see. Ash McVall said Texas was overrated. I wish I could have been there to witness the welcome to the SEC. Kevin said McCoy just dominated. Sampson announced his offensive leadership the last 2 games. Defense feels like it's a whole team of greats. It's a great point. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dane Davis had a really good night. He came in and spelled John Campbell and Lance Hurd in some pretty important spots and played really well.
Yep, you're right. Austin said McCoy had his game against one of the best receivers in the country. Sampson had his game against a suspect defense. Got to give it to McCoy for that reason. Mississippi Vol actually named the person that I was thinking about in my head while we were talking about that. Mississippi Vol said maybe you have to go back all the way to Terry Fair. That's actually who I was thinking of in my mind as I was asking that question. TriStar said Boo Carter's player of the game, local bias.
I'll tell you, Andre Turrentine gets an attaboy because there were a lot of times, again, I had a lot of time today to watch that game repeatedly. There were a lot of plays, especially in the second half, and Boo played his tail off. He did a heck of a job both in run support and in coverage. But most of the time it was because Andre Turrentine was telling him what to do. He clearly did not understand his job, his assignment. He was just out there to be an athlete and be great. And Andre Turrentine, I can't count how many times in the second half Andre Turrentine was – I mean, there was a couple of times Boo was completely turned around. He had his back to the line of scrimmage, and Andre Turrentine was telling him what to do. So kudos to Andre Turrentine, getting him lined up, letting him go be a player, keeping him from having to think and letting him just go play.
Absolutely. Mr. John says, does Eric Berry count? Nah, because he was a safety. That's a good question. Rebel Juice said, if Tennessee beats Georgia and goes to the playoffs, it'll be in part because of Dylan Sampson and his NFL stock will rise. So I think if Tennessee beats Georgia, yes, they go to the playoffs if they win out. If they win out and lose to Georgia, I still think they go to the playoffs. That's why yesterday was such a huge day for Tennessee. I like Carl's pick, Cooper Mays, player of the game. I like that pick.
Yeah, he did a heck of a job.
Greg said it's so much fun to watch this defense. I agree, man. Isn't that nice to say? For the first time in a long, long time, we could say that. Let's see. Louisiana Vol said, I think Will Brooks has earned a scholarship. Any word on that? Yeah, we kind of talked about that earlier. He's a walk-on. He is, like Rustin said, he can afford to pay it, but he's probably, with the NIL money that he's getting, he's not on scholarship. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. Rhonda said, who is the most improved player? That's a great question.
I'll go back to what I just said. If you go back and watch our preseason preview, my biggest concern was Andre Turrentine. And that guy has shown up. He has been consistent. He has played extremely well. And right now he's responsible for him and Boo Carter. So, huge kudos to him. I think he's by far the most improved player out there.
I'm going to go with another Andre. I'm going to say Andre Carrick. If you look at last year to this year, night and day. Night and day. Let's see. Mr. Jones said Gaston Moore, player of the game. He gave a boost to Nico by throwing that interception on purpose. Let's see. Doug Graham said he was thinking of Dwayne Goodrich. Yeah, I thought about that too. That's a good pick for best corner. McCoy's best corner since Dwayne Goodrich. That's a good pick too.
You got Emmanuel Mosley in there too.
Yeah, but Emmanuel, he really blossomed when he got to the NFL. I think right now you could say McCoy's playing better in college than Emmanuel did. But once Emmanuel got to the pros, man, he just took off.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ash McVall said, who wore the green dot during the game on defense?
T-Lander.
I don't remember. Was it T-Lander? There you go.
Yeah. Jeremiah T-Lander called everything.
Louisiana Vol said Andre Carrick, most improved. Rusty said he's been a nice surprise. Sam said getting in the playoffs is different than getting a home playoff game. I would love to have a home playoff game, but primarily I just want to be in the playoff.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the playoff, you got a shot at the national championship. If you're not in the playoff, you don't. I mean, it's really that simple. So that's why I just get in the playoff. Louisiana Vol said, yep, Carrick has improved a lot. You're hearing bad things about Hurd and Campbell, but nothing bad about Carrick, which means he's doing his job. That's a fair point.
Yep.
Eric said, you got to put Eric Berry in that convo as well, Evan. Yeah, but Eric Berry was a safety. He wasn't a corner. And so that's where we're just specifically talking about corners. That's a good point, though. Let's do the stuff we've been doing each week and to end the show. I knew tonight would probably be kind of a long show. So let's see here. Carl said Deshaun Bishop. Louisiana Vol said, who's on the right side of Cooper? That'd be Javonte Spraggins. Rhonda said, is it next year that we go to 16-team playoff? It is not. No. That might be on the table for 2026. Maybe. They haven't voted on it yet, but they're talking about it. Let's see. All right. So I should have done this before we started. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. I got the this week's if the season ended today, based on today's AP Top 25, what would the college football playoff look like? This is what it would look like. Well, it says it's processing. Here we go. All right. So there's the AP Top 25. I was shocked that Alabama dropped all the way to 15. I was shocked. And I think Indiana's stay at number 13 there is going to be very short-lived because they said that the quarterback's injury, he will be out an indefinite amount of time, but they expect him to come back in 2024.
But you never know. Taven Jackson walked in and actually played better than the starter did against Nebraska. So
here's if the playoff were to start tomorrow, Oregon would remain as number 1 seed. Georgia jumps all the way up to number 2. Last week they were much farther down on this list. Miami, even though there's 6 overall, they would jump up to the 3 seed as the ACC conference champion. And Iowa State would jump from number 10 all the way up to number 4 as the Big 12 champion. When you look at the rest of the outlook there, Penn State would host Boise State in a first-round game. Tennessee would host LSU. Talk about a rowdy atmosphere. That would be unbelievable. Ohio State would host BYU, and Texas would host Clemson. Talk about a blowout right there. So that's how it would play out right now. It would be fun to host a playoff game, especially hosting LSU. It would be just an incredible atmosphere. But I want to say something about this because Rustin and I, over the last 2-3 months, as we've been talking about the 12-team playoff and the flaws in how they have organized it and structured it, we have said if you are number 12 in the poll, you're not getting in. Like that's a fact. You will be removed for the highest ranked non-group of 4 school. In this case, it's Boise State, who's currently number 17. But here's the deal. As I was looking at future games and schedules, we've said even if you're number 11, you may not make it into the playoff because something crazy might happen in a Big 12 where somebody wins a conference championship game and automatically gets that automatic bid and bumps number 11 out. Well, if things play out the way that I think they might, that's exactly what's going to happen. In order to be in the playoff, you really comfortably, you need to be in the top 10 because number 11's on the bubble. You may not make it in if you're number 11. Louisiana Vol said, forget conference championships. Just give the top 4 bids to the 4 best teams. I agree, man. Totally agree. But here's the thing. If you look at BYU's schedule, BYU has a very, very manageable schedule for the rest of the season. BYU is probably going to finish the season 12-0 because they're undefeated right now, and they've really played their toughest games already. The rest of their season is not as difficult as what they've already played. So BYU is probably going to finish 12-0. They'll be in the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State has a few pretty difficult games on their schedule coming up, especially the last game of the season when they have to go to Kansas State. So here is what I'm thinking very well might happen. BYU wins out. They're in the Big 12 championship game, and they're in the top 9 or 10 teams in the country, maybe even all the way up to number 8 or 9. Big 12 championship game happens. Kansas State beats Iowa State to end the season. Kansas State goes to the Big 12 championship game, and Kansas State upsets BYU in the Big 12 championship game. That means Kansas State automatically gets a first-round bye and is in probably the number 4 seed. Does BYU then fall off? Like if they're at number 8 by that point, do they fall all the way down to number 11? Probably not, because they'll be a one-loss team that only lost their conference championship game. So that means number 10 is not making it in the playoff.
I'm going to make a prediction right now on who that final 12 seed is going to be. Notre Dame is going to lose to at least Army, possibly Army and Navy. They'll be out. Boise State's going to lose this Friday to UNLV. UNLV is going to run the table and win out, but they're not going to be able to leapfrog the Black Knights of West Point. And Army is going to move all the way up to that number 12 spot because they're going to win out.
That would be amazing.
The only tough game they have left is Notre Dame, and they're going to whip them. And so they're going to win out, and Army's going to end up being that 12 spot.
That would be amazing if that happened. That'd be fun to watch, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Rebel G said Penn State's probably going to make the playoffs. Very surprising. Still overrated. They get beat in the first round. I agree. They are a very overrated team. Louisiana Vol said Miami's going to get blown out of the playoff as well.
Yep.
Rob said, what happens to the legacy bowl games? This is a great question. So the first round, those are hosted at the higher seeded teams' stadium. The bowl games that you just mentioned, the essentially what is now known as the New Year's Six, those games start in the quarterfinals, the second round.
It's right there on the graphic.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the graphic, you can see the 4 bowls that are those 4 games.
So those, you got Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl will be those 4 games. Then the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl will be the semifinal games. And then you got the national championship game. So that's what's going to happen. Mr. Jones said, I just jinxed BYU. Maybe so. I apologize, BYU, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't agree with you on BYU. I think they went out. I think they'll be that 4 seed.
So you think they beat Kansas State in the Big 12 championship? They already beat them once this year. Bad.
Yeah. They owned them.
It's hard to – yeah. I'm just saying it could happen. It could happen. Louisiana Vol said some of these teams are just barely scratching by a week schedule. Arkansas Vol said the auto bid for the non-Power 4 is worse than the top 4 seeded championship bids.
All right, so here's a crazy scenario. If Army bumps all the way up to that 12.
Doug said he hopes you're right.
If Army bumps all the way up to that 12, BYU wins out. They're the 4 seed. Oregon beats whoever in the Big Ten championship. If somehow Penn State stays on that 5 line, Army could have Penn State and BYU in back-to-back games. Army could make the Final 4.
Yes, they could. March Madness in January.
Mm-hmm.
December and January. Let's see. Rhonda said, moral of the story is our Vols need to win out. Well, for sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. If you can, that'd be the best. Austin said, so this is the year we win 2 bowl games and a natty. There you go. Absolutely. Louisiana Vol said, when's the Army-Navy game? It's always the second Saturday of December. Let's see here. Hattie May, see you in the comments as well. Welcome. I'm glad you're with us. Now we're going to get really controversial. And this week might actually be less controversial than previous weeks on this. But every week I've been saying if I were voting for the top 11 without any preconceived bias from the preseason, take any preseason stuff out of it, solely based on merit, who should be the top 11 and one most frustrated team? That's number 12. Who should be those teams? Solely based on merit. Here's what I got. And this week I had to change it a little bit because it can't just do it only on merit anymore. Because some of these teams, even though they have one loss, it's because they've played a tougher schedule. So Oregon at number 1, I think everybody could agree with that. Ohio State number 2, because the only loss they have is a 1-point loss at Oregon. So, I mean, how can you knock them down lower than that? Georgia number 3, because they just beat Texas, who's at number 4. BYU at number 5, because BYU has a very, very good strength of schedule, and I mean they've played really well. They pounded Kansas State earlier this year. They're undefeated Power 4 school, so they get there. Miami at number 6, undefeated Power 4 school with a really good win against Louisville this week. Tennessee at number 7. People are like, oh goodness, he's just saying that because he's a Vols fan. The only reason I have Tennessee at number 7 is because their defense. That's why Kevin said, oh, Evan, Miami doesn't have any defense. They couldn't score as easily on Tennessee. I agree totally, 100%. But they're undefeated. Tennessee does have a loss. I will say this. Of every school on this graphic, there is only one school on this graphic that has 3 top 25 wins this season, and that's Tennessee. Tennessee's defense, like Boise State's not getting enough respect, in my opinion, because, yeah, they haven't had that great of a schedule, but they did play Oregon, and they only lost by 3 points. That's it. Boise State has earned a top 10 spot, but I couldn't put them in front of Tennessee because if Tennessee just held Alabama to 75 yards rushing. Boise State's offense is Ashton Genty. So Tennessee holds him in check. Tennessee beats Boise State, in my opinion. Penn State, I think, is the most overrated team in the country. They are undefeated, yes, but it's because they hadn't played hardly anybody. Indiana, right behind Penn State. Kind of changing my mind now on LSU. They are playing well right now, and they did have a good win against Arkansas, but they did lose to USC. And Iowa State's undefeated, but they've only had one tough game, and that was against UCF yesterday, and they almost lost. But they did pull out the win, so I have them at number 12. This would be my top 11 and one most frustrated. This is what I would have. Mr. Jones said, Big Orange said, go Vols, absolutely. Mr. Jones said, SEC equals superior to every conference. Absolutely. Robert said, I was listening to something today that was saying Army and Navy both could get in because they don't play each other till after the playoffs are picked.
Okay. So there is a new trend taking place in college athletics. This afternoon, Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator. Utah just fired their offensive coordinator. That's 2 Power 4 offensive coordinators fired mid-season in the same day.
Robert, I get what you're saying. I don't think it'll happen, though, because in order for both Army and Navy to get in, they would both have to be ranked. At least one of them would have to be ranked in the top 10 or 11 teams and the other would have to be pretty close behind that to be the highest ranked non-Group of Five school. And then the question becomes, would that non-Group of Five school that was ranked in the top 10 take that spot anyway? I mean, essentially both of them would have to be ranked in the top 10, and I just don't foresee that happening. Braden, welcome, buddy. He said, join late. Jermon McCoy played unbelievable. Totally agree. He said, also saw a scenario where possibly 5 SEC teams could be in the playoffs. Not very likely, but it's still a chance. I mean, if it ended today, you'd have Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, 4. So, I mean, I think 4 is likely. It'd be tough for them to get 5 in now, especially with Bama having 2 losses. Mr. Jones said, is Halsley calling plays or is Heupel? Heupel is.
Always Heupel. It's never been anyone but Heupel.
So Tennessee has a bye week this week. They come back the week after that and play host Kentucky. So all eyes are now on that game. This week, let me say this before we finish here. I almost forgot. As far as the College Football Pick'em Challenge. So Rustin now is tied in a 3-way tie for first with World's Biggest Connect Fan, which that's Elijah, and Crazy Obsessed Volgirl. I don't know who that is, but Rustin is now in a 3-way tie. I was able to pick up 1 game. I'm now only 4 games off the lead. Several people went 9-1 this week. Jeff, excuse me, Jeff went 9-1. Excuse me. Tyler Goldberg went 9-1. Rocky Top Reverend right there. Pretty good weeks right there. So Tyler, if you're watching, congrats, buddy. That was a good job. Tyler's an honorary bro. So there's a lot of people up there near the top of that list. A lot of people. Elijah said, you're going down, Rustin and Volgirl. I love it. There's a $50 Alumni Hall gift card on the line.
I'm sure I will.
Mr. Jones said, how long before the SEC and Big Ten form a super conference similar to NFL model, 32 teams or so? I'd say 2 years.
Yeah, as soon as they're able.
Charles, welcome, buddy. He said, hello, Vol Bros. Hope your Sunday's going well. It is, man. It really is. He said, I agree about the Vols defense, making Jalen Milroe throw more interceptions and touchdowns. Not bad. I agree. Absolutely. Not bad.
On the season, Tennessee has forced 11 turnovers and given up 8 touchdowns.
Not bad.
That will win a lot of games.
So this week's games, and I'm showing everybody this now because I'm going to have to tweet it out a lot because it's early. The first game this week is on Thursday. So picks are going to be due this week by Wednesday. And this honestly is the most bizarre week of the season we have had so far. Because as you look at some of these games, I always pick the games that have the most significance nationally. This is bizarre. Here are the games that we're going to be choosing this week, picking. Syracuse at Pitt, that's Thursday night, which is why games need to be submitted, picks need to be submitted by Wednesday. So Syracuse at Pitt, Boise State at UNLV on Friday night.
That's going to be a great one.
Yep. Notre Dame at Navy on Saturday. Illinois at Oregon. That's a top 25 matchup, by the way. Notre Dame at Navy, top 25 matchup. Illinois at Oregon, top 25 matchup. Missouri at Alabama, top 25 matchup. Texas at Vanderbilt, top 25 matchup. Penn State at Wisconsin. LSU at Texas A&M, top 25 matchup. There are five top 25 matchups this week. And SMU at Duke. SMU's top 25 team. Duke's only a one-loss team.
Yeah, Duke should be.
Cincinnati at Colorado, another really, really good game. Now, here's what's bizarre. The games that I just mentioned to you, here are the games that were not selected for this upcoming week. Nebraska at Ohio State. The games that SMU at Duke is a more nationally significant name than the game than Nebraska at Ohio State. Washington at Indiana, the game day is going to be at. These games, Boise State at UNLV is a more nationally significant game than Washington and Indiana. Oklahoma at Ole Miss. I couldn't even put that on here because everybody would have chosen Ole Miss. It'd be pointless for me to put it on here.
Did you see where Jackson Arnold opted out today?
No, I did not. That is very interesting.
He told the coaches that he wants to preserve his red shirt. If they get in a bind, he's willing to play, but otherwise do not put him in.
Wow. Man, oh man. BYU at UCF was not good enough to make this list because everybody's just going to pick BYU. Oklahoma State at Baylor. Texas Tech at TCU. All of these games were not as significant nationally as Boise State at UNLV. I mean, it's incredible. West Virginia, Arizona. Hello, Florida State at Miami. I couldn't put that game on here because it'd be an easy pick. Everybody just pick Miami. I mean, there are some Michigan State at Michigan, Auburn at Kentucky, Kansas at Kansas State.
3 months ago, if I had told you that at the end of the Duke Florida State game, one team would be 1-6 and the other one would be 6-1, I guarantee you most people would not have picked Duke being the 6-1.
Exactly. Doug said, good night, Vol Bros, Vol Nation. Hope everyone has a great week. Hey, good night, buddy. Glad you were with us. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, I can't believe BCS championships were a thing. How crazy does that seem now? Elijah said, wow, we really broke Oklahoma. Yeah. Well, I just said Florida State going from top 10 to possibly going 2-10 is crazy. Absolutely. Rhonda said, could this be an upset weekend? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this will be a crazy weekend.
It's going to be bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. This date is bananas. That's Kelly Kapoor, The Office. Let's see here. Greg said, thanks for the analysis as always. Good night. Hey, great to have you, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Eric said, that's some crazy stuff. Those games are not. The one that really got to me was Florida State at Miami. Like, I couldn't even put it on here.
Yeah, has zero meaning.
Carl said Blake Burke broke up Florida State. Elijah said, good weekend for us to have a bye. Absolutely. Kevin, good night, buddy. I'm glad you're with us. Thanks for staying with us for 2 hours. We appreciate it. Rusty said Jackson did play yesterday, so his red shirt's gone.
I think he didn't play in a previous game because it came out today that he told them he was only going to play moving forward if they absolutely needed him. Otherwise, he was preserving his red shirt.
Elijah said, since Tennessee has a bye week, he can actually sit there and watch games without worrying about how we're going to play. Great point. I hope everybody has a great evening. I figured this will probably be a long show. This might actually be the second longest show we've ever had. So we're glad everybody joined us. To the 160 of you watching across all three platforms right now, we appreciate you so much. 161 now. So we hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols. Mr. Jones said Team Martin broke Florida State. Carl, it's good to see you on here, buddy. Glad you're doing okay. Really, really thankful for that, man. Elijah, great to have you. Congratulations on being tied for first now. I hope you keep it up, man. Hope Rustin does too. Mr. Osborne said, another great show. Vol Bros. Hope everyone has a great day tomorrow. Go Big Orange. Thank you so much. You too. I hope everybody has a. Hey, Carl, we love you too, man. Love you too. Rhonda said, "Great show, guys. Thanks a bunch. Hey, we appreciate you so much, Rhonda. Thank you. We hope all of you have a great evening. Rustin, thank you for joining again, even though you're traveling for business. We appreciate that. Really, really do appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols, baby. Go Vols.